York's mystery plays have been performed since the 14th century. But what are the York mystery plays?
In a nutshell, they tell the story of the world, the Christian story of the world, from the creation of all things to the ending of all things. So it was a fairly ambitious project to set about, really.
There's a wealth of plays. We have to sort of cut it down to a quarter, essentially. And within that, we're trying to still give a sense of a story, a sense of a narrative arcs that take in all the various important aspects of the plays. The Old Testament bits, the Nativity, the ministry, the Passion, after the crucifixion, and then finally the Last Judgment. Within that, there are plays that the surviving guilds still have, and also I try and introduce new plays so that we're not seeing just the same ones over and over again. It is difficult. It takes a lot of thought. This is one of my main jobs, is to actually get a mini cycle that has got variety, tragedy, comedy. It's a mixture of being a juggler and having to keep 12 balls in the air, but it's almost like being a chef, trying to get a tasty dish, but you're relying on the first-class ingredients that the others are providing.
Those ingredients don't just appear. There are weeks of rehearsals, sets and costumes to design, and wagons to build or convert. Organising all that keeps Paul's co-director very busy.
What I've basically been doing is making contact with groups that some are familiar with doing mystery playing, some not at all. I do believe we've got 2 groups this year who've not actually been with them before, and 1 group that's returned. I keep them abreast of things like directors' meetings, route walks, basically try to make sure that they're happy with things. Not always the easiest thing to do, because we're talking about 12 different groups.
Each group is responsible for building its own set. The wagons have all been brought to a central workshop at the National Railway Museum. But with just 3 weeks to go, there's still a lot to do.
We're doing the play of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. So above all, we need a tree. So what we're in the process of creating is quite a big, as realistic as we can, tree for the day with some other scenery around it. And what you can see is this is going to be the top of the tree, and then these are going to be some of the adjoining pieces of rocks and foliage and hedges and so on around the tree. Obviously, we've got to try and create as green an effect of the Garden of Eden as we can, and we have to do it quite simply, because the whole point, as you'll realise about these mystery plays for York, is that they have to be on a wagon, they have to be easily moved, easily reassembled.
In the 1980s, there were academic productions which basically challenged the idea that modern audiences can't engage with drama performed in a medieval manner. And plays were put back on wagons and taken back out to the streets on a small scale in a rather experimental format. And it was proved that it could be done. From 1994 onwards, the City of York has once again embraced the medieval tradition of bringing together groups from the community, groups that already have an identity, churches, schools, the guilds, drama groups, bringing them together and asking them to produce one of the plays from the mystery play cycle, putting them on wagons, taking them back out to the streets, and trying to, I think, re-express or reimagine something of that medieval format of performance. It introduces new challenges. The wagon is symbolic of this historic community that we are trying to perhaps respect, re-engage with, and perhaps trying to recapture.
July the 10th. It's the dress rehearsal in the National Railway Museum's car park. All the wagons are ready, the cast are ready, the programmes are printed, it's all going according to plan, isn't it?
So far so good. All the casts have turned up, all the wagons have turned up. Oh, bar the brownies, we're waiting for them to be trees, so we may have to do a little leapfrog over them. People's volume is good and people seem in very good humour. No pleased so far, but we're only on the 2nd play at the minute, so who knows.
Well, the trees did arrive, and the dress rehearsal went to plan. The following morning, it's showtime. Moving a dozen wagons and a cast of hundreds around a medieval city with 21st century traffic requires a bit of planning.
projects like this, there's so many things that go on behind the scenes, sort of multiple layers of dealing with different groups, different things. I must have been for 3 years now talking to local authorities, looking at maps, dealing with highways, looking at road closures, how we're managing the stewarding teams, making it possible for these 12 plays to seamlessly move between 4 different sites.
It's a little disappointing that we've lost a little time on the second half, but the first half has been absolutely bang to the minute. But the important thing is the artistic element, and that, I mean, I've been very pleased with. The comments that I've heard from the audience have been very positive, and in general I'm very, very pleased.
All the unforeseen circumstances have been dealt with. You know, there's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but that's, you know, that's part of the process and part of the fun. The great thing about the audiences at these events as well is they come out and they enjoy the bits where there's a bit of a wagon getting stuck, or, you know, they're having to do a bit of manoeuvring or something, you know, doesn't quite work the way that's part of the feel of the project for people. So it's all great, all gone really well.
And will it happen again?
Well, I certainly hope so. It's getting harder and harder in some respects to get people committed to big projects like this. We know that we're at a time where we're facing funding difficulties across the board with the events and the arts industries generally. But I think it would be a great shame, and I'd be very surprised if in 4 years we weren't back here again doing something at least.